Welcome back to the breakdown, where we talk about every single MLB game on the slate, and we do just that. We break them down. We look at how teams are hitting against righties, against lefties, how the pitchers are doing, and then we wrap up the video talking about guys that are scorching hot versus guys that can't buy a hit at the plate, and then also guys that are in good and bad matchups. What's going on? My name's Austin from Calling Our Shot. We've been doing this video on the second channel for the last week. We're bringing it to the main channel. You guys have loved it, and hopefully you guys continue to love it. So as always, do me a favor, go down below, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. If you want all my official picks, those will be posted in the video that follows this, our best bets video. But this is just the breakdown where I might talk about a game I don't talk about in our best bets video. So if you guys have been enjoying them, hit that like button. Let's dive into the games though today. Not the biggest slate, but a lot of games. I think 10 or 12 games probably. And it starts with a doubleheader. Toronto taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Now, if you guys know how I feel about doubleheaders, it's not great. I don't like betting them. Today, the first one, you have Rodriguez versus Eflin, the newly acquired Baltimore Oriole. Obviously, they traded him from the Rays to the Orioles. This will be his first start as a Baltimore Oriole. Honestly, both these two offenses have been pretty good against righties recently. This will be a righty-righty matchup. Both teams have been solid with runners in scoring position. Both bullpens haven't been good. If you back Baltimore, you know Craig Kimbrell's always looming back there. End of the day, you guys know I don't bet a lot of doubleheaders. So, I forgot to mention, everything is timestamped down below. So if you're only curious about one matchup today, then you can certainly click the timestamps. Or if you're curious about the hot and cold hitters, you can certainly hit those timestamps down below. But like I said, I don't bet a lot of doubleheaders. It's probably not one that I'm going to force onto the card. Eflin doesn't walk guys, so if you're looking for guys maybe in some hit parlays, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., a guy that has really good splits against Eflin. We'll talk about Vladdy at the end of the video. I like Vladdy today. Honestly, not a game I'm really targeting. I don't like betting doubleheaders. Something about them, I'd just rather not touch either of them. So the second one, you have the second doubleheader on the slate. This one's a little bit different. You have Francis going for the Jays. Could be Cade Povich, could be Kyle Bradish. I have no idea who the heck's starting for the Orioles in that second game. At the end of the day, probably, like I said, I don't bet doubleheaders. I can't give a lot of analysis because I don't know what the heck happened in the first game. That's obviously going to affect this second game. Obviously, you'd probably lean towards some more runs in the second game, given if these are the two starters and their ERAs. But at the same time, you got a lefty going. If it is Cade Povich, could be Kyle Bradish, who's a righty. So take that with a grain of salt, those stats. But it is worth noting, Toronto not been good against lefties. So maybe that's something to keep in the back of our mind in case maybe they see some lefties in the next few games or maybe in their next series. Maybe we start fading them against lefties. Obviously, did pretty good, swept the Rangers, the reigning World Series champs in their last series. Honestly, this is really not, I'm not touching doubleheaders. Sorry, I can't give you a ton of info. Just not something I like to do. I feel like they're always a little bit wonky, hard to really handicap a doubleheader. So instead, I'll just avoid both of those two games most likely. And we'll move to probably the first game on the slate for me. It's going to be the Guardians taking on the Tigers. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like these two teams have played like 12 games against each other in July. It feels like they have one series against each other, one series off, and then they're back. And you look at Tanner Bybee and Jack Flaherty. I believe this is their third start versus the opposing team just in this month. So typically that leads to me thinking, hey, the offense probably has the upper hand, but both the guys have pitched pretty well against the opposing offense. Guardians still struggling against righties. We're able to get some lefties in that series against the Phillies, but still struggling against righties. And at the same time, Tigers, who were really hot to start the month, have been struggling a little bit against righties as well. And Bybee's obviously pretty solid. I mean, there's no really value, in my opinion, taking an under at 7. I mean, this is basically a pick 'em. Tigers are slight underdogs at plus 100 even value. Personally, not a game I'm really looking at touching a ton. If I had to pick anything, I'd lean towards an over, but at the same time, Cleveland's been really struggling versus righties, and Detroit's been struggling a little bit against righties as well. They've been getting the timely hits. That runners in scoring position is good to see. Cleveland's starting to get an uptick in terms of that metric, but still, both bullpens have been pretty solid. I mean, Guardians bullpen is one of the best units all season long. I don't mind maybe backing the Guardians here. Jack Flaherty, I feel like the more and more you see him, this is a guy that doesn't walk a lot of guys. I feel like maybe they'll get some more success on him. But again, don't know if I really want to lay minus 120-ish on a road favorite like the Guardians, but that is probably the team I would lean in this one. I would probably back the Guardians because they have the better bullpen in my opinion. But again, their offense has not really been showing a ton except against lefties. Again, I lean the Guardians in that game. Next one, we have a big matchup. Could be a potential World Series matchup. I know Yankees fans would love that. Yankees versus Phillies. You have Luis Gil going up against Zach Wheeler. Not a surprise to see the Phillies as pretty big favorites with Zach Wheeler on the mound. You'd hard pressed to see them ever as underdogs. About minus 155. I know some people will be definitely going for some value hunting on the Yankees at plus 130. I think they're the right team favorite here. I like Wheeler a lot more than Luis Gil. You guys know Luis Gil. I hate this guy. I hate him. I've taken him for outs a few times. He sucked. I mean, honestly, if the Yankees are going to win this game, it's going to be with their offense. And we've seen, I mean, you look at those metrics against righties, first against righties in the last 14 days. I mean, they have been crushing righties, especially in that Red Sox series. And you look at Wheeler, he's probably their best righty they will have faced so far in this, little 2-week stretch. On the other side, Phillies struggled against righties, are starting to swing the bats a little bit better. Had a couple higher scoring games against the Guardians in their last series. And Luis Gil, my thing about him, he looks great until he doesn't. It's like the guy's got confidence going in. The moment an extra base hit or he walks or he hits a batter, everything starts to fall off the rails. I mean, he just starts to stink it up, which is why I just can't back him. I just don't. I think Luis Gil is due for some runs here. He's going to give up some once the wheels come off and the Phillies have some guys that can get those extra base hits. He just looks terrible. Now on paper, the Yankees much better offense last 14 days, especially against righties. But I think the Phillies will win this game. Both these bullpens have not been good though. So if you're looking at an over, don't hate an over in this spot because I think we see some runs probably early against Gil and maybe a couple runs against Wheeler. Wouldn't shock me if he gave up 2 or 3. And then you probably see some runs late. It really depends on how Wheeler far he goes into the game. I did see his outs line is sitting at 17.5. That is probably a line I will take a peek at and maybe throw it into a parlay. Zack Wheeler is just a guy that they trust. And even if he's given up 3 or 4 earned runs, they trust him. They'll keep throwing him out there. And honestly, they have no reason not to, given the bullpen's been just straight up garbage the past few weeks. So might as well let your ace, the guy that you trust probably the most on the mound out of any of their pitchers, let him go out there for another inning. So I probably wouldn't be shocked if in one of our parlays of the day does include Zack Wheeler's over and outs in some capacity. 17.5, sure. The Yankees have been scorching hot versus righties, but now change of scenery in Philly. Maybe Zack Wheeler's got something for him. He's one of the most efficient pitchers in the league. A sub 1 whip. You sometimes got to take a shot at a guy like that to go 6, which is probably something he's done. And I don't know how many starts he has. 22 starts. Probably guess he's probably hit it that at least an 85% of them. Next one, we have an interesting series. Twins and Mets. One of these games in the series is going to be super high scoring. I don't know if it's this one though. Simeon Woods Richardson versus Jose Quintana. Now you look at on paper, both these two offenses have been kind of about on par, but you look at the real thing that's really shocking to me, the batting average with runners in scoring position. I mean, Minnesota batting 153 the last 2 weeks, 29th, and right ahead of them is the Mets at 28th. I mean, if you just avoid that stat, you look at how Minnesota's been hitting against lefties, pretty good. The Mets have been hitting against righties, pretty good. I mean, middle of the pack, 13th and 12th in terms of batting average, solid WRC pluses, solid OPSs. Problem is they can't get the timely hits. Now the Mets and the Twins, honestly, you could argue they had stretches this season where every time the hit went their way. I mean, there was a stretch, obviously the Twins won double-digit games in a row. They were getting all the timely hits known to man. Now they have Royce Lewis back, which should help the offense. And then the Mets on the other side, they were getting every single timely hit in June. We had the Grimace era. And then into July, they were still hitting pretty well. But those runners in scoring position hits have dried up. So I think we see some base runners here, but Woods Richardson has been really good at getting out of jams. Jose Quintana is a veteran. Do lean in under, maybe in the first 5. I really like Woods Richardson. He's been pretty good. He's been shockingly good this season, and I think he could easily navigate this Mets lineup. I'll have to see how he's doing against lefties, because obviously the Mets do have some good lefty bats in there, but and maybe I'll look at some Woods Richardson, maybe his under and earned runs or something like that. Mets coming off that debacle, I believe. They just got smoked by the Braves yesterday, or choked that game late in that. Well, didn't choke, but they were down, I don't know, lost one like 7-2 or something like that. Again, Mets bullpen much better than the Twins though recently. Twins have good arms, they just aren't pitching well right now. So I'm sure that bullpen turns it around soon. They've had a couple bad games in there. Their bullpen's a lot better than 29th, but again, some teams go through stretches. The Yankees, one of the best bullpens in the league, and if you saw that last stat on their last graphic, one of the worst bullpens the last few weeks. So bullpens go through highs and lows. Now is one of the lows for the Twins. Not a team I really want to trust a ton on the money line. If I had to bet that game, I really do lean an under in that one. I think Quintana can get out of jams. I think Woods Richardson can do his job. I think this is probably a lower scoring game. But again, this series is going to have some high scoring games. There's going to be games where the Twins and Mets get those hits. As it happened today, they get the timely hits more so. Maybe, but I think Woods Richardson, guy that doesn't give up a ton of home runs, feels like the Mets, the only way they're scoring these days are via the home run. So I lean in maybe an under for the Mets in that one. Probably just back maybe Simeon Woods Richardson, though. Next game, we have Mariners and Red Sox. Now, obviously, Red Sox coming off Sunday Night Baseball. That is normally a trend where you fade them. So if you want to fade them or the Yankees, probably the Yankees would be the team you'd rather fade because they're traveling a little bit, although Boston to Philly is a couple hour train ride, so not a big difference. We've talked about Boston all year. They've been really good against righties. They'll face Logan Gilbert, who's been really good. He's coming off a start where I think he gave up 5 runs. Only one of them was earned. He's been very, very good. I mean, a .86 whip. I didn't do the stat research, but I imagine that's probably close to number 1 in the majors out of starting pitchers. I mean, he's been dialed in. Pivetta has been all right. He's been here hit or miss. Seattle, we've talked to them last week on the breakdown. They had sucked versus right-handed pitching, but a couple starts against the White Sox, and they've corrected some of those things. Maybe the Randy Rosarena trade helped them out. Fetty struggled against them. They hit Garrett Crochet yesterday. He's a lefty. And then I forget the other righty that they started against, Drew Thorpe. Yep, know that one firsthand. I still don't know if I trust Seattle against a righty. I really am going to be looking at maybe some way to back Pivetta. I might look at his outs line, which is sitting at about, I believe, 15.5 or 16.5. The Boston Red Sox, you see that bullpen 30th. They're depleted. They had to use a ton of arms against the Yankees. Every arm was pitched at least twice in the last 3 days. So I wouldn't be shocked if maybe I'm on some Pivetta over and outs, just because honestly, they're going to run him out there because they don't really want that bullpen to consistently go in there. Seattle, not a team I'm really yet too scared of for right-handed pitching. Sure, some of the White Sox pitchers got rocked by them, but they had also seen those White Sox pitchers many a time. Haven't seen Pivetta a ton. I don't know if they've even seen him this season. So I'm probably looking back in Pivetta, maybe outs in some capacity. It's not like 17.5 juice. It's like mid 16.5s. So, you don't need him to go a full 6, but certainly the Red Sox are going to trot him out there and hope that he can go a full 6, especially game 1 in the series. Don't want to deplete your bullpen. So I would probably look at back in either the Red Sox on the money line because I think they're the better offense, but I also think I'm just going to back probably Pivetta in outs. Again, Logan Gilbert, obviously the better pitcher on paper. Red Sox are favored in this game. Makes me think Pivetta pitches pretty well. So give me Pivetta, maybe looking at his over and outs. Not sure I want to take the unearned runs because I think there's plenty of ways where he can give up 3 earned runs and still cash the over and outs. I believe his under and earned runs is pretty juiced. That makes me think if he only gives up 2, probably has a good chance of hitting the over and out. So something I will take a peek at that. Mariners not a team that really runs up the pitch count a ton. 7th game on the slate, Cubs versus Reds. Now, this one you get at one of the highest totals I think we've seen. We had a 9 total. Jamison Tyone versus Carson Spears. Spears appears to be returning back from injury. He should be starting. Again, 2 righties. Chicago. Stats against righties, not great. Batting 172 last 2 weeks. We're able to get some runs up on the Royals in their last series. They did well against Cole Reagans and then did well against Seth Lugo. Is their offense starting to turn around? I don't know. They traded away Christopher Morel or Isaac Paredes. I think that's probably I don't really see a huge change there. Paredes has actually been one of the colder hitters in the league the last 7 days or so, but still, he's pretty solid. Both those guys feel like they're home run or bust. Both these two offenses haven't been great. Cincinnati was really good against righties until the last series against the Rays. They could not get anything going. Maybe a little bit of home cooking, getting back home where they play really well in Great American Ballpark. I do lean probably taking the Reds here. I think the Cubs coming off, 2 games where they were able to put up runs, whereas the Reds couldn't do anything. Maybe a return back home, we see the Reds offense start to heat up a little bit. And the Cubs have just been bad against righties. Now, I won't lie, probably not betting the Reds. I don't think Spears is any good. And the Cubs bullpen has been really solid. So this is probably just a stay away game for game 1. I'll maybe dive into something in game 2, but probably not a game that I'm really just rushing out the back. Both these two offenses are hit or miss. And the Cubs bullpen's been really good. We've talked about them before. So probably a game I'm avoiding. I lean Reds, but I don't like Spears. So it's like, I'd rather just avoid that game and not force something into a game 1. Game 1 of series can be a little bit tricky to predict. And then you can kind of use that data, see what happened and what didn't happen in game 1 and use that in game 2. Next one, we have a team that just got swept. Rangers taking on the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals are slight underdogs here with Plante on the mound. Evaldi will command, the favorite price. But at the same time, this Texas team, I don't know how you're wanting to back them. Even with Evaldi on the mound, They are just terrible against righties recently. Now, they wrecked us yesterday. We were on the under 9. Shout out John Gray for not even playing, being a late scratch and really pissing us off. So their bullpen is pretty depleted because they had to use a lot of arms yesterday, although Michael Lorenzen, they just used him, I think, back-to-back days just for fun. I mean, I guess granted he didn't make out the first inning in his outing before, so he was out there. But again, this is just a Texas team that can't hit against righties, and they're facing Palante, who is a righty they should be able to hit against, but again, they are not hitting well against righties. St. Louis a little bit better against righties, but have a tougher matchup against the pitcher. Leaning under in this spot, again, probably not going to back it because every time I feel like I back Eovaldi, he stinks up the joint. Again, Texas is going to figure it out eventually. Do I want them to figure it out against me? Maybe not in the first game of a series. I really don't think Palante is very good. I'll have to see how he does against lefties because obviously the Rangers do have a lot of lefties to stack, notably Corey Seager. I probably am avoiding this one. I lean the Rangers on the money line, but again, I have to see it to believe it. It's like betting the Rangers right now feels like a dart throw. It feels like you're closing your eyes, saying, please, please, Rangers, go back to what we've seen from you before. And I don't know if I can trust them just yet. So probably another game I'm avoiding. If the Rangers bats start to heat up, that's when you can start to back them. This is just not a game that I'm like rushing out to back the Rangers. And I have respect for Eovaldi. So again, at a pick'em-ish price, probably just going to avoid this game for game 1. And if the Rangers start to heat up, maybe we start to back them later on in the series. Coming off a sweep, now or never for them. Next series, we have the beginning of the Braves and Brewers. The Brewers are able to avoid a sweep from the Marlins. Don't know how you do that. Xavier Edwards, though, shout out to him. He's not playing today. He would be on the hot hitter matchups hit for the cycle, I believe, yesterday. You got Grant Holmes going for the Braves. Not a lot of data out there on him. Only pitched 23 innings. Made a couple starts, but not a lot. Colin Ray will go for the Brewers. Ray is one of those guys that I believe is due one of the most, he's due some of the most regression out of any starting pitcher. So it's not a surprise to see him barely as favorites against Holmes. Holmes isn't going to pitch too deep into this game. Both bullpens have been pretty solid. I lean it under here. I won't lie to you. I lean under. I think Holmes can give you 3 or 4 innings pitched, maybe 2 earned runs. Brewers just have been struggling against right-handed pitching. Obviously, one of their best lefties, Christian Yelich, could be out for the year. I do lean it under here. It's a Braves offense that I don't trust at all. It's a team that just feels like they're swinging for the fences. Their bullpen's, though, pretty solid for the Braves. I think you get a decent start out of Holmes. Decent length out of that bullpen. Leaning under in this spot. Not sure I'll take the under at 8.5, but I do lean it under here. That would probably be where I'd go. I don't, in terms of who wins this game, probably not one I'm touching. Colin Ray is just not a guy that I want to back on the money line, but Braves offense, I'm okay fading them after a couple good games against the Mets. Give me an under in that spot. Next one, I'm rocking this shirt for Paul Skeens Day, as Paul Skeens is on the mound taking on the Astros. Now, the Astros haven't been great recently against righties. They do have the talented hitters, though, to make Paul Skeens work here. They do not strike out a lot, so probably not looking at some Paul Skeens K props, but Paul Skeens is one of the best pitchers in terms of getting the Ks, probably in the MLB. So if they do strike out today, wouldn't shock me a ton. I leaned the first 5 under, but it was a little too juiced at 4.5. Bloss, not good. I won't lie to you. He's not good. But the Pirates' offense against righties has been not good either. So what do you want from me? I mean, they don't give Paul Skeens any run support ever. I've seen some people on Paul Skeens over and outs like 18.5. Don't hate that. Paul Skeens throws strikes. And for a team like Houston, I don't know if they'll be swinging too early because they are a team that strike out a lot. Maybe that is because they swing early because they don't have a lot of pitches per plate appearance. So if you're looking for some plus money, Skeens over and out, not terrible. They're going to keep running him out there. Heck, we saw that in his last start against the Cardinals. He was at 97 pitches. They ran him out into the 9th inning. So I don't mind a little Paul Skeens backing him. I just don't. I mean, they're big favorites. Not a surprise. Paul Skeens is going to command that favorite price, and Bloss has not been good. Same time, I'm not betting the Pirates at minus 160. I'm maybe looking a first 5 under, something like that. I'll look into this game a little bit more, but probably not one I'm touching because I feel like it's properly priced. Pirates should be favored at minus 160. I don't want to back the Astros just to be a contrarian. I do think the Astros get some hits on them just because I think they'll be swinging early and often. But again, I do lean the Pirates in this one, but probably not a game I'm touching because that price is just a little bit too high for me. But if you're looking to be a contrarian, take Paul Skeens under in Ks. Don't hate it. Next game on the slate, Royals and White Sox. These two teams just matched up a few series ago. You get Alec Marsh going up against Chris Flexen. Now, the last time Chris Flexen faced the Royals in Kansas City, 7 earned runs. That's not great. And the Royals have been pretty good against righties. Flexen, it would be a troll for him to just have a good start here. Total is 8.5. Both bullpens haven't been great. Kansas City had a long homestand, though, I believe. So this could be their first road game in a hot minute. Flexen, it's just, that's nasty backing him. I don't like Alec Marsh either, but I mean, if you want to fade the White Sox, you can. I mean, they've been terrible against righties recently, 29th in every metric. Well, we're right at the trade deadline. Either is that today or tomorrow. Either way, White Sox could be trading some guys. Just nasty. This game feels like an under. This feels like one that the Royals offense doesn't show up. First game on the road. Historically this season, Royals have not been a great offense on the road. Do I want to take an under, though, with Chris Flexen on the mound? Oh, that's going to be soul-sucking if he comes out and gives up another 7. Probably a game I'm avoiding, but I don't mind maybe a full game under here. I don't know. I don't think I can stomach taking a Chris Flexen under. That guy just, when he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it. But I think he could pitch a lot better. Let's be honest. There's no way he can pitch worse than what he did last time against the Royals. Only gave 4 hits, 4 walks, 7 earned runs. Woof. I'm leaning under, but that is like jumping in front of a bullet and hoping for the best. So do what you want with that one. That is nasty. Next game, you have the Nationals and Diamondbacks, the final game on the slate. The battle of the lefties, Mitchell Parker versus Jordan Montgomery. Now, Mitchell Parker has had 2 straight starts where he has sucked. I know one of them happened, I believe. Was that against Arizona? I don't remember when it was. And then the other one happened against whenever I backed him against the Padres. So he's been pretty bad. But you have Montgomery, who has super high ERAs and whips. He's been better, though, recently. Nationals, I mean, both of them kind of on brand in terms of the same, splits last 2 weeks against lefties. D-backs have been one of the best teams against lefties in the majors pretty much this season. Not great last 2 weeks, but take it with a grain of salt. Some guy, they might have faced a lot of lefty starters. So maybe it's just lefty bullpen arms, which is why they don't have, they're not hitting them too well because they don't have their normal platoons in there. But still, you see the D-backs as big favorites. I mean, heck, they're only plus 125 on the run line. I do lean the D-backs here, but the Nationals are swinging pretty hot bats, been hitting the ball pretty well. Their bullpen's been serviceable. Arizona's bullpen kind of starting to fall off a little bit after being really good for the beginning of July. That's just not a game that screams to me, hey, I need to bet something. I need to look at some props here. I don't ever hate fading the Nationals, especially coming off some high-scoring games against the Cardinals. I'm always for pro fade Nationals. I just think their team goes from hot and cold really quickly. I mean, heck, they had the no-hitter on them, and then they went up and put like 6 or 8 earned runs in like Sonny Gray in that next start. Probably not a game I'm touching. I won't lie to you. Montgomery's just not a guy I love. Maybe you want to look at his outs because the Nationals don't really walk a ton. They just kind of go up there and swing. C.J. Abrams, the guy that we'll talk about in just a second, who's been pretty cold, though. Actually, you know what? Let's just skip to our hot and cold matchups, talk about some guys that are in good and bad matchups, then we'll get on out of here. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed the breakdown. Let's talk about some hot and cold hitters. So guys that are hot, got a pair of Blue Jays up there, Justin Turner and Vladdy. Then you got Rafael Devers, who's been pretty hot. Tyler O'Neill, pair of Red Sox, pretty hot. And then Ketel Marte, who's been scorching hot, 421, 4 homers the last 7 days. Those guys are pretty solid. Like I talked about Vladdy, not a guy that I would be afraid of back in the day. We'll talk about him in just a second. Now, guys that are ice cold, guy that on the trade block, Jonathan India, 1 for 19 last week. Not great. JT Realmuto, obviously coming back from injury. It showed, batting 1 for 14 his last few weeks. And Bryce Harper's teammate, 3 for 24 down there. I mean, we talked about the Phillies. They have been great, especially against righties. Luis Robert Jr., another guy on the trade block, not batting well. C.J. Abrams, another guy I mentioned. Brandon Nimmo, another guy. All these guys struggling, and guys that normally are hitting pretty well, and guys that people are looking at the back. Be a little bit hesitant to back any of these guys right now, not seeing the ball too well. Maybe the cold hitters get going on a new week. We'll see. Always like to see how these guys do. Obviously, hitter can see something and flip the switch. And if they maybe had a hit yesterday, they start to kind of continue that momentum. Bryce did get a home run, I think, on Saturday, but he has not looked good recently. Now, finally, wrap up the video talking about guys that are in good and bad matchups. This is what we're looking at, strictly the opposing starting pitcher. Now, George Springer is an asterisk. He's not on the list. If Kyle Bradish starts, he has really good splits against Kyle Bradish. But again, I don't know if it's Kyle Bradish or Cade Povich, so he's not on the list. Vladdy, really good splits against Eflin, 6 for 16, pretty good. There's a bunch of extra base hits in there, so if you're looking at him for 2 bags, don't hate that. Manuel Margot, pretty good splits against Quintana. He probably bats leadoff tonight. That's typically what they like to do with Margot. Bobby Witt Jr., a guy that's kind of fallen a little bit off the last few days. Going up against Flexen, though, maybe he bounces back here, 5 for 8. I mean, I say fallen off in quotations marks because, well, Bobby Witt Jr. is basically getting a hit every single time he was at the plate. Now that's not the case as much, but still, good splits against Flexen if you're looking to back him today. Randy Rosarena and Cal Riley, both pretty good splits against Pivetta. Again, I still might take Pavetta's over and outs. I don't really care. Randy's obviously seen him a little bit more than Riley or Rayleigh. I always pronounce his name wrong. But again, I might still be looking at Pivetta outs, even though those guys have decent splits. Those are just two hitters in their lineup. Still, two guys I might be looking at. Now, batting average versus opposing starting pitchers, bad matchups. A couple guys that have really struggled. Now, Devers, we just talked about him being scorching hot. He struggled against Logan Gilbert, though, 0 for 8 in his lifetime versus him. And Carlos Santana versus Quintana, 9 for 48. A lot of PAs in there, but not a lot of hits. Now, Goldschmidt and Byron Buxton. I don't know if anyone's really backing Goldschmidt these days. Did have a walk-off home run, I think on Saturday, 2 for 12 against Evaldi. And then Byron Buxton, a guy that people have been backing recently. He's been scorching hot, going up against Quintana, 3 for 18, so struggled there too. Again, these are just matchups that you might be looking into them, but hey, maybe I'm saying, hey, take a peek, look into it a little bit harder if you want to back them for hits or bases or things, hits, runs, and RBIs, things like that. Not good matchups for those guys. Now, that's going to do it for the first video of the breakdown on the call on our shot channel. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did have anything you want to see maybe in future videos, as always, let me know down below in the comments. I'll try to add some things in here that I certainly can do fit. A lot of work goes into these videos, so if you can hit that like button, that certainly helps support the channel, helps the video in the algorithm as well. And yeah, hopefully you guys have a wonderful betting day. Just kick off the week on Monday. Our best bets video will be live, I don't know, in an hour or two right after this video drops. So stay tuned for all the official picks. I'm sure some things I talked in this video will be on the official card. But as always, if you want all the picks early, join the DubClub. It is linked at the top of the description. You get 7-day free trial to get all the picks early. Hasn't been our greatest MLB season, but just know, end of July, going into August, we're going to heat up and we're going to absolutely dominate. Had a pretty good last week or so. Let's keep cooking and let's have a great day. Y'all have a wonderful Monday. Hopefully you enjoyed the breakdown. I'll see you guys back on Tuesday with another breakdown of some games. I'll see you then. Peace.